Let's dive right into this explainer and explore how the rapid rise of AI is completely flipping the traditional business school model on its head. I mean, we are at an absolutely fascinating inflection point right now. For over a century, the MBA has been the absolute gold standard for creating business leaders. But as artificial intelligence suddenly automates the exact analytical skills these programs have championed for decades, institutions and students alike are being forced to ask some really hard questions. So we're going to look at the gap between what schools say they're doing with AI and what they're actually doing, and more importantly, how you can use this massive shift to build an insurmountable personal advantage.
Think about this, it is actually incredibly ironic. For a degree that literally teaches businesses how to innovate and disrupt incumbents, the 118-year-old MBA model has been shockingly resilient to fundamental change itself. You've got the case method emerging at Harvard way back in 1924, the executive MBA dropping in the 40s, the quantitative shift in the 50s, the one-year format in 59, and online stackable degrees just recently in the 2010s. It has survived dot-com busts and global recessions with its core architecture largely untouched. And honestly, that is a very slow evolution for a fast-changing world.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going from the macro-level history of business schools right down to the micro level of how you can build a personal AI advantage. We'll hit all 6 of these key areas to give you the complete picture of this educational revolution.
Let's jump into Section 1, the century-old MBA disrupted. We're going to look at what happens when traditional education collides head-on with modern technology. So, for a degree designed to teach disruption, business schools have done a remarkable job dodging it themselves, well, until AI completely transformed the career landscape. Historically, the MBA really thrived in a world where changes in the global environment were relatively slow or at least, predictable. But today, the widespread adoption of AI is accelerating the emergence of entirely nonlinear career pathways. We're seeing a widening gap between what recruiters actually need from fresh grads and what legacy institutions, which are often trapped in these rigid functional silos like finance or marketing, are actually able to deliver.
Moving to Section 2, signaling versus true capability. With all these massive changes happening, we really have to ask, are business schools actually ready for AI, or are they just pretending to be? The truth is, a lot of institutions are currently engaging in what organizational theorists call mimetic isomorphism. It's a fancy term, but basically they are copying prestigious elite schools out of a massive fear of missing out, rather than doing the hard work to build true AI capability. They draft these highly polished, forward-looking policy documents that sound amazing, but they're often masking incredibly weak internal mechanisms. It's a race fueled by reputation and rankings, resulting in symbolic compliance rather than substantive structural change.
And the hypocrisy in the system right now is pretty staggering. Leadership loves to talk about AI, but the actual financial investment paints a wildly different picture. Get this, 85% of deans are openly encouraging AI integration in their schools, but when you look at the budget, only 37% actually plan to allocate dedicated funding to make it happen. This massive disconnect leaves everyone grappling with vague guidelines, relying on external tech vendors, and ultimately just dealing with an illusion of readiness.
We see this gap on the ground too. Faculty are highly optimistic about AI, but they feel deeply unequipped and unsupported to actually teach it. A recent survey across top business schools shows that while over half of the faculty believe AI will positively influence learning, there's a staggering drop-off when you ask about their own skills. Only 7% consider themselves expert AI users. If you're a student, that means your professors might be learning this technology at the exact same speed you are. You just can't expect faculty to redesign courses and mentor students on the complexities of AI when they face severe time constraints and a complete lack of institutional training themselves.
Let's hit Section 3, beyond the spreadsheet mindset, because this institutional sluggishness directly impacts the actual student experience.
For decades, MBA programs have drilled analytical rigor into students. They teach you to use Porter's 5 forces, build robust financial models, calculate net present value, the works. And while that's fundamental, relying too heavily on those tools traps students in what we call a spreadsheet mindset. You become incredibly adept at optimizing known variables under normal, predictable conditions. But what happens when the goals suddenly shift? What do you do when the data is completely incomplete? The spreadsheet mindset fails instantly when it's faced with the real-world ambiguity of the modern boardroom.
Which naturally brings us to Section 4, the rise of human judgment, and the real paradigm shift in leadership.
Generative AI is rapidly automating our analytical work. Data processing, forecasting, complex modeling, that can all be done in minutes now rather than hours. This means human value is shifting aggressively. Analysis answers the fundamental question, what do we know? But judgment answers the far more difficult question, what should we do anyway? Since AI handles the baseline analysis effortlessly, your value is no longer about finding the answers, it's entirely about dealing with the uncertainty that follows.
We have to redefine judgment. It is not some vague, soft skill. It is the very core of modern leadership, where you have to act before seeing the perfect outcome. True judgment involves synthesizing incomplete, often contradictory data. It requires you to anticipate second-order consequences that a machine might completely miss. And ultimately, it requires you to make decisions with absolute conviction, despite glaring uncertainty. Anyone can explain a result after it happens, but only a true leader makes the call beforehand.
AI can instantly give you 1,000 plausible responses, right? But only a human leader can pause and ask if we're even solving the right problem in the first place. Today, what distinguishes individuals is not their ability to provide answers, but their capacity to question those answers. Poor questions lead to elegant but completely irrelevant solutions. Intelligent questions reframe the problem, uncover hidden assumptions, and challenge the very framing of the data itself.
Section 5. Building the Agile MBA. So how can business schools actually fix this foundational problem?
To cultivate this kind of judgment, schools need the Agile MBA. It's an immersive environment where students don't just passively analyze case studies, but actively build, fail, and iterate. If the goal is to cultivate judgment, we have to connect knowing with doing. When you build a tangible solution, your assumptions are immediately exposed as flawed or incomplete. You face real, immediate stakeholder reactions. Failure becomes an instructive tool, not just an abstract concept. It forces you to constantly step back and ask, wait, what are we missing?
We also need to completely redesign assessments to foreground student reasoning, moving away from easily manipulated take-home exams and toward real-time oral defenses and reflection. I mean, the traditional ways of grading are completely obsolete in an AI-rich environment. Progressive institutions, like the Indian Institute of Science, for example, are showing how evaluation can evolve responsibly. By focusing on live, in-class analysis and oral defenses, the assessment actually tests your judgment and your ability to defend a perspective, rather than just your ability to prompt an AI for a really clean essay.
Finally, Section 6. Your AI critical thinking advantage. Let's look at what all of this means for your personal advantage as a student or modern professional.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is the 90-10 rule. Simply knowing how to use AI won't save you if you're just passively copying outputs like the vast majority of your peers. The data from neuroscientist Vivian Ming is incredibly revealing here. When given access to a large language model, 90% of students essentially outsource their thinking. They copy, they paste, and they perform no better than the tool itself. But that 10%? They use the AI as a baseline, and then they apply critical thinking. They deeply engage with the output, refine it, challenge it, and end up with vastly superior results. That is where you want to be.
To be in that top 10%, you need to synthesize analytical rigor with specific new leadership capabilities that no algorithm can replicate, at least not yet. You need probabilistic thinking, understanding the likelihood of different scenarios, rather than demanding absolute certainty. You need systems thinking to see the whole board, not just linear logic. You need second-order thinking, looking past the immediate optimization to the hidden ripple effects. And you absolutely need narrative thinking to unite a team when the path forward is completely ambiguous. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. AI can generate 1,000 answers in seconds. But do you know the right question to ask? Your future success isn't about beating the machine at basic analysis. That race is totally over. It's about leading the machine with human judgment, creativity, and strategic discernment. It's time to move beyond the spreadsheet mindset. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning those answers, and I'll see you in the next explainer.